Hello, everyone. We are so glad that you are with us today. And we have Sal Bua. Sal, how do you say your last name?
Bua. Hey, everybody.
Bua. All right, I got it right. Well, we are going to be talking about how to make raving fans in real estate, why your first hire shouldn't be a TC and who your first hire should be, how to keep in touch with your sphere, how to do just sold, just listed postcards to see that they are actually working, and so much more. So, Sal, welcome today.
Hey, everybody. How you guys doing?
All right. Well, first of all, I want to talk about raving fans because you do such an amazing job at really getting your clients to, you know, think that, hey, you are the greatest. And I'll start by saying this, Starbucks isn't in the coffee business. Chick-fil-A isn't in the food business. They both actually say they're in the people business, and coffee and food are just tools they use to serve people. And so you've got to ask your customers and ask yourself, do I care about my customers? And your customers have to say, do they care about me? And how do they demonstrate it? Are you creating raving fans? And I was actually on a podcast today and somebody asked me the question about, what is my opinion of Tim Cook as a CEO? And I literally said to them, I said, I don't think I have an iPhone. Here it is right here. And I don't think Apple products make people raving fans. I think they've got great technology. And I think, Tim Cook is great at a lot of things, but he currently makes between 50 million and 100 million a year. He has $100 billion in savings. But yet I went to the iPhone store because probably a couple years ago, my iPhone wasn't working. And they said, well, we could get you in tomorrow at 2 o'clock. And then one time my MacBook wasn't working and they were same thing. We can get you in at 2 o'clock. And I'm like, I can't work because my MacBook is not working and my phone is my lifeline. And you're telling me that you can't get me in until 2 o'clock tomorrow to get it fixed. That doesn't make me a raving fan. And so I literally said on the podcast, I was like, Tim Cook, if you're listening, call me and I'll coach you on how to create a business that creates raving fans. So I want you to tell me, what is it that helps you to create raving fans for your real estate business?
Got it. So, first of all, you can't spell sale without Sal. So
Yes,
that
I forgot to tell you, you guys listen. I love this. His slogan is so good. It's you can't wait, say it again. It's
you can't spell sale without Sal.
you can't spell sale without Sal. That is such a good slogan. Oh my gosh, I love that. Okay, keep going.
I mean, everybody wants to do Better Call Saul or Sal from the show, but Courtney sells. And I think that's an important thing to get that raving fans is that you just can't really care what people think. Like, just be yourself, be genuine. But so I grew up, just a little backstory, in the restaurant business. Um, So my family all throughout Jersey owns a bunch of pizza places, restaurants, reception halls, kind of all that. And I think just growing up in such a local community in the tri-state, I was able to grow a big network from that. And because I grew up in a very small town, I graduated like 150 kids, all tight knit. So I think a lot of my business is coming solely just from like face-to-face interaction. I feel I have a bit of an old school mentality in that sense where, I'm building my book of business just genuinely. The restaurant business it's a tough world. It was hard giving that up. I mean, my family owned the specific pizza place I'm mentioning for 40 years. So we did sell that right before COVID and I jumped in full throttle into real estate. Um, a lot of there was a lot of like not necessarily guilt, but like I was like, oh, do I really let this go for real estate? But I was doing well. I think back then in my 20s, I was a firm believer in like I need to do everything at once, 5 different jobs, everything at once. Once I really honed in on real estate and what I wanted to do, is really when the business started flowing and I felt a lot more comfortable kind of gaining these quote unquote raving fans. I mean, from high school to college to just shore communities up here, I'd like being face to face. I like socializing. I'm really not big on any kind of like lead purchasing, any kind of AI. Like if you're talking to someone, you're talking to me or one of my team members.
Mm. Well, you just come across just, from talking to you like that, you just truly genuinely care about the person. So, what kind of things do you send your people? Anything kind of to kind of explain, hey, I really care about you, or are you doing calls? Kind of talk about specifically, because you got to have kind of a system to, just working your sphere. There's got to be kind of a little bit of a regiment to it to say, okay, once a month, I'm going to call them once a month, or once a quarter, I might send something, or once a year. So what does that look like that you're doing to keep in touch with them?
Sure. So to keep in touch with my sphere, since I'm not buying leads, what I'm really doing is for every listing I have, I'm always sending just listed, under contract, and just sold postcards to usually the closest 500 to 1,000 homes. Obviously, they say somebody in the neighborhood knows somebody looking to buy. So those people, whether they want to or not, they have to see my face 3 times for one transaction. So that's one thing. Obviously, social media is big. Playing into the social media, I love that. We have the Sal Bua team on Instagram, Facebook, all that. So we do put not just videos and posts based on just our transactions. I do have filming every other month. We film like 12 to 15 videos, all of my team members, of just things people want to know. Like I want to give out free information, how to do a CMA, a market analysis, what to do to get ready to list your home, some spring cleaning tips, how to show a home, best thing to do at open houses, like really just informational stuff that goes to not only just clients and people looking in the market, but also other real estate agents. I'm an open book. I'm ready to give out information to show how I did everything and how I grew my business. What people really like is like between Thanksgiving and Christmas, we hand deliver somewhere between 300 and 500 cookie boxes. Shout out to antcookie.com. That's who does them for me. She puts together these beautiful cookie boxes. There's a ton of different like style cookies, puts candles, chocolates. I do a personalized note. So that goes out and people really start to look forward to them. I get like hundreds of shares on that. Like, oh, classic, just like clockwork. Sal's back with his cookie boxes. And we do hand deliver, which does show how much you care and want to see it. And I love talking and catching up with my clients. There's just not enough hours in the day to do it face to face. So I do check in with them normally quarterly to see how things going, what kind of upgrades have they done, family updates. I know direct mail, I always send to my farm as well, like market analysis, essentially just what's sold in their neighborhood or surrounding neighborhoods, just people get an idea. Really, you got to think sellers just want to know what my house is worth, or at least what the market's selling. Obviously, condition, size, upgrades all come into play, but they really want to stay in tune with that versus sending, and not to knock the agents that send their themed postcards monthly and their calendars and all that. But for me, I never got a sense of that working. Whereas, hey, I'm going to give them information. Aside from that, we do cold call. A lot of my team members cold call. And the way I do cold calling is we start with a cold call. And then that following week, if they answer or not, we always do door knocking. So we'll door knock flyers. That again is a risk because you're giving them so much information that they could call just the agent they've been working with for 10 years. And it's like, hey, well, I see what prices are going in my complex. Like, let's sell. And they call that. But there is a reward to that. Like, we're walking in this heat, sweating, giving flyers. So always follow up a cold call with a flyer, door knock, and a postcard at the same time. Again, touch points. Touch points are a big thing in this business. And you really want to give them information. It's not like I'm trying to sell you something. I'm trying to help you in the long run make one of the biggest purchases of your life.
So one of the things you say is that your first hire shouldn't be a transaction coordinator, and who should be your very first hire?
Yes. So everyone told me for the past 10 years I've been in the business, you need a TC, you need a TC. You can't be doing 30, 40 transactions at once. And they're right. I was going a bit crazy during, especially those 2020 to 2023 years. So last year, instead of hiring a TC, I hired essentially me, like another me. I had my assistant who is our full-time team member. He's great. He shadowed me for 8 weeks straight. So he had to
So, but
see
your very first hire, you're saying, is a personal assistant. Is
my
that's
very
correct,
first hire.
right?
Yep, was my assistant. And I know all the big franchises are gonna be like, TC has to be your first hire.
No, I agree 100%. Personal assistant has to be your first hire.
Yes, and he shadowed me for 8 weeks straight. So I mean, he's probably definitely sick of me. I'm sure he'll hear this, but 8 weeks straight of seeing everything start to finish. I mean, it couldn't be better. He was in the car with me all day, just really listening and honing in on what I'm saying on the phone. And he picked up quick. I mean, 8 weeks is a long time. And from now, he can pretty much do everything. And he trains our other team members as well. So I really do believe that the TCs are great for what's needed, but a lot of those TCs could be virtual, could be people that don't really know the paperwork in real estate or transactions. Like, why not teach someone everything you did from start to finish in the past 10 years for me?
Yeah. So I actually just finished writing my book called How to Delegate Everything But Sex. And I have this acronym that I talk about. And the acronym is who you should hire. So I created, it's called SMART. So it's sales, marketing, an assistant, recruiter, and then either a trainer or a tech person. But I say that's not the order you should hire someone. It's ASMRT, which is like as Mert, but
Yeah,
smart sounds better.
it
But
works.
I say the order should be ASMRT as Mert, which is assistant, then sales, then marketing, then a recruiter, then a trainer slash tech person. So that's the order that I think, and hands down, everyone always gets that wrong, but a personal assistant is the way to go. And so I'd love for you, I've actually love for you to talk about this checklist that you've kind of created and explain, even when you have an assistant, some of those things you have it so nicely made as a checklist for someone to go about that. So talk about the checklist that you've created a little bit.
Sure. Yeah. So I'm pretty OCD. So the checklist, I have a simple one and then I have a detailed one. And that has everything start to finish on a transaction for a listing side or a buy side. Listen, as much as I'd love to be everywhere for all of my clients, it's impossible. So my assistant is feet on the ground. Like, he's able to apply to COs, get those scheduled, get home inspections scheduled, coordinate appraisals, be at inspection, be at appraisal. I mean, I like to really have him learn everything he possibly can just by being out there. That's how I did it when I started on a team. I wanted to see everything start to finish. Did you want me to pull up the checklist or?
I've sent it out to people and I'll put
Oh,
it in
okay.
the show
Yeah,
notes for people to look at.
no problem. No problem.
So but I love how systematized you are on basically creating this. And so talk about that first little bit of time of what you did to train the person, because I think that's where people get like, one of the things people say is like, oh, it's going to just take me forever to train them on everything I need to do. What is it that you did to train the person? And were you afraid, like, I'm going to spend all this time training them and then they're just going to leave me?
Yes. So there always is the fear that if you train another one of yourselves, that they're going to pick up and leave. The hope is not that, but it's also a compliment in the sense that, hey, if they learned everything they need to and they feel like they're not growing, then on to the, next step for them. And that's great. But I really do treat my team like family. So I think from my on assistant standpoint, the 8 weeks of shadowing, really the first it's hard to just sit down and train. Hey, this is how you use the MLS. This is how you use dot loop or DocuSign without actually being in the transaction. So, I mean, day one, he showed up to the office and we were on the road all day. We went directly to a listing appointment. From a listing appointment, we had 4 sets of showings. Then we went to a home inspection. We went to appraisal and we ended with door knocking, like near where he lives. So he really saw so much interaction in one. I brought him to closings. Listing appointments was huge because he was really seeing how I sit down and take the time to really explain everything start to finish with my sellers. And then other than that, it was still day to day. I don't care how repetitive it was. Then we sat down and started to, you know, put together that detailed checklist. And I'm not going to say everything's perfect. I know you said as smart or something. I have the sales and the marketing, but the other two, it's growth. So there's a lot of growing pains on it, building the CRM with the team and everything. But as far as my like assistant, he really just started to pick up on what I was saying. Being on in the car for 10 hours a day, he was like, all right, well, I feel comfortable calling agents, checking in. Is this property still available? Do you have offers, etc.? Just kind of flowing conversation and what I say to attorneys, title companies, other agents, clients, really just kind of picking up on lingo, I think helps more. I mean, obviously there's type of learners. So you got the people who are prefer just handwritten slideshows, taking notes, or the people who are just picking up based on seeing what you're doing. I think in real estate, you have to see what's happening, which is why the transaction coordinator is not seeing anything. They're just sending out these emails and hoping that people respond to giving the documents that they need.
So one of the things that you said is that you, for every house that you list, you do a just listed, an under contract, and a just sold postcard. Now, were you saying that you do that just for the neighborhood, or do you also send that to the people who are in your sphere as well?
I do both. I do both. Yeah,
Okay.
great question. Yeah, I send just listed, under contract, just sold within 500 to 1,000 of them closest to that actual listing, but I also send those to my sphere. And just to show my sphere, hey, wow, he's still doing business. Again, that's just kind of showing you sold something, you're still doing transactions. The other touch points are more genuine, just texting, phone calls quarterly. But if they have to see my face, they know I'm doing business there. So I do think it's
I
important.
love that because I think it just is another top of mind that they're saying, "Man, look at him." And they just look at it and they're like, "God, look at Sal. He just sold another one. Oh my gosh, look at another one's under contract." And look at him. And I mean, again, they're I'm sure on your card you have, remember, you can't spell sale without Sal. And so
Always.
that's another way that you're kind of chiming in that slogan that you have as another reminder. Is that on every one of your just listed, just sold postcards?
It is on every single thing. My email signature. I have to shout out my best friend from college, John, who came up with the slogan. He said if it's ever patented or copyrighted, like he's got to get residual from it.
I love that. I love that. So let's talk a little bit more about some systems and processes that you've created for your team and what you do to get, because I think a lot of people, I've heard maybe they have one team member or they have two team members. And in their mind, they're like, I'm not ready to add another team member because I don't have enough leads to give them. And that kind of holds them back from hiring that next person. So talk about, where you just are like, nope, I'm going to hire another team member and what you do to help keep them accountable, but also generating leads themselves and helping you out with that.
Sure. Yeah. So on the team side of things, there is four other team members plus me. That is pretty new. That is something where once I just couldn't do everything myself anymore. I mean, we all want to think we're invincible, but it happens. Growth has to happen. So I had my assistant and now I have three additional team members. I want to keep them engaged. Like I do trainings every Wednesday with them from usually between 6 and 9. And that's usually on Zoom. And then once a month, it's in person where, we're going to dinner, we're talking about the market. Every week is a different topic. So it definitely is organized. And that's the system I have in place. I do one-on-one calls with them monthly as well to see where they're at. Like you mentioned, I don't buy any leads. So it's hard for me to give out a lot of leads, but I mean they do all my open houses and I don't touch those. So I have a template for everything. So in my Google Drive, open house follow-up template, how to
So
initiate.
give us right now, like if you were going to pretend like you were going to do a team training, give us like your best one in just like a 2 to 3 minute training. If you were going to train your agents on something, give us your 2 to 3 minute best teaching you would give them.
Okay. I will say one that comes up a lot that I have to repeat is CMAs, competitive market analysis. The amount of agents that don't know how to do a CMA in their local MLSs is crazy. So I do step-by-step video screen on how to do a market analysis, how I narrow down those searches. I used to do appraisals in my corporate job, so I'm pretty good at value. So last 6 months, how many bedrooms, lot size, miles away, distance, all that. So those are usually my best because at least they're seeing visually. Here's everything in front of you. The data's in front of you. If you just take the time to read and go through the motions, you'll get to the final answer you need. So I think the interactive trainings are the best. So doing CMAs, I go as basic as how to do an open house correctly, how to show a house.
So
And
let's talk about that. Let's do of how, because I think people have gotten a little bit burnout. What I've seen with open houses is they'll do two. They didn't get any clients from it. And then they just go, open houses don't work for me. So go ahead and address that because I feel like we're getting less of our agents doing open houses. And even they can do it on other people's listings as well, even if they don't have it. There's tons of people out there that will allow you to do an open house on their listing. So just go ahead and talk about that.
yeah, so for open houses, I have again a checklist, of course, on Google Drive for them and our own personalized sign-in sheet through Jot form. So we have an iPad that's right behind me that they all sign in for. But open houses, they do get discouraged. Perfect example is yesterday, I had a team member who had a buyer that he got from my open house listing and they wanted to make an offer. They made said offer. Unfortunately, they didn't get it. Again, everyone's mindset. Some of those clients at the open house think, oh, I work with the listing agent, I get a better deal. But again, we all know that's not the case. So I had to kind of tell them, like, don't get upset because the client texts them saying, hey, we put an offer on another house with the listing agent and we got that one. So thanks for your help. And he's like, man, what do I do? And I mean, that could spiral into buyer agency agreements and the issues with the lawsuit that I won't, obviously we don't have to touch on. But I think for open houses, you really just have to sell yourself. That's the best time to have the energy and know it. So I make them print out those MLS sheets and you should be highlighting everything that's important. Study that seller's disclosure. Make sure you have all paperwork out in the open house. Small refreshments. It's not about hosting this big selling Sunset or selling Tampa open houses or anything like that. It's really just personable. Show your personality. Show that you studied this home and know what you're talking about. If I'm walking into that open house without them knowing and they don't know what are the taxes or something like that, I'm not going to be happy. Like I want them to actually know it. If you have this opportunity where you have 20 to 30 people coming to the open house, good chance you're getting 4 to 6 without agents. And it's a long game. It's never a short game. And it's hard to
What are
teach.
you doing? Because I think the biggest thing is it's in the follow up. Like the person comes to the open house and then the agent never follows up with them. So talk about what the follow up plan is and what is the script that you're using to say to the person, hey, even if you didn't like that house, let me help you get into another house that you love.
Yeah. So there is a follow-up script. I do have a template for it. And what I'm doing in that script is almost giving them what the home buying process looks like. So for instance, they come to the open house Sunday, all our follow-ups will be done by Monday night. If they got 10 leads from it, people without agents, they're going to send them. And I always say to put a personalization in there. What do you remember? And while they're walking through on that sign-in sheet, put a note, asterisk saying, oh, these people were from Michigan and they're moving here. Like, because it's hard to remember. You have 30 groups coming in through. But the open house follow-up is essentially like, it was a pleasure meeting you at my open house at X, Y, and Z address. Then get that personal touch point. It was a pleasure meeting your family. You brought your in-laws. Here is a checklist for the home buying process. I give them that, a transaction checklist to see what it's like. And I give mortgage, attorney, and inspection company recommendations as a PDF as well. So I'm giving them good information to learn, especially if they're just starting out. And then let me know if you're interested in this property. If not, let's get on a call and set up a simple buyer consultation. Of course, I have a buyer consultation form for that as well. And then they'll kind of go through and then they can kind of set them up on auto emails in the MLS. Of course, some people don't answer. So after the email, give it a day or two, just follow up with a call or a text or both. Again, I'm not in the business of really being harassed and harassing people and being aggressive, but those are leads. So those will go in the CRM and those are, quarterly touch points. You never know. Or if you have their criteria of what they're looking for, oh, I see something came up. Let me get that over to them. You just never know. Timing.
I really think that
Crazy.
that is the missing link that is happening, because to me, if somebody, it's the best analogy I can say is this. So like if someone walks in, you know how the salespeople always say, "Can I help you with something?" And then you always say, "No, thanks, I'm just looking." That's what happens to all real estate agents. What happens is they go, "Hey, just checking in. Is there anything that I can help you with?" And they go, "No, thank you." In another way is if you walked into a place, right? And someone said, "Can I ask you, what are you looking for today? Are you looking for jeans? Are you looking for pants?" And then they say, "Oh, I'm looking for jeans." And they say, "Oh, okay. Well, here's a pair of skinny jeans. Do you like these? Would you like to try them on?" That is the way to get the interaction going. And what happens is the missing piece is the first question is, "Tell me about what you're looking for." As soon as they write down, they're looking for a 3-bed, 2-bath in Virginia Beach with a garage, you have to put that down. And then anything that comes in that's 3-bed, 2-bath, let's say that's, 300 to 400,000, let's say that's your price range. Now, when you reach back out, it should be with a property that matches whatever criteria they're in, instead of just, "Hey, checking in. Do you see what I'm saying? Like that to me is where everybody is getting it wrong. Do you agree?
I do agree. Like the amount of open houses I just walk in and the agents just sitting there on their laptop. "Hey, how are you? Here's an info sheet. Look around." Like, why not? This is the opportunity to sell yourself. You're one-on-one with these clients. Yes, they might have agents, but I do agree with you. Instead of like asking the question, give them information first and let them give you feedback. "Hey, welcome to 123 Main Street. This is a 3-bedroom, 2 full bath ranch with a finished basement. The roof is 3 years old. The HVAC is 2 years old." You're showing how much you know, which is impressive. Another thing to mention, this has an easement on the property. This is not in a flood zone. Like information that people don't think of is just going to show that you have that knowledge on this property. And then they're going to be like, "Wow, maybe my agent didn't send me like all the information beforehand or this and that." Like just show your purpose. And listen, real estate's a long game. The instant gratification that some of the agents want, it's not there. It's not there, especially in a market like this.
Well, I can tell you in the last 30 minutes, I have gotten to know you. I can totally understand and really believe that slogan that, remember, you can't spell sale without sell. I love that so much. And it's been a pleasure having you on.
Thank you for listening. If you enjoyed this episode, please subscribe, leave a rating and a review so we can get this out to more agents. And tune in next week for another power-packed episode. This is the Millionaire Real Estate Podcast.